844-686-5863. Let's go to the phones. And Brian in Minnesota starts us off on the phones today. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, Ed, not too much. Good interview with Nico, by the way. And I got to say, sciatic nerve issues are nothing to fool around with. It's just, oh, man, I had that one time, and the pain was the worst thing I could imagine. It was a 5-minute production for me just to get out of bed the mornings that I had that going on.
It is brutal for anybody out there that has dealt with it or deals with it. You know how crazy it is. I've had it flare up in different ways over the last 5-6 years. It's crazy. It can be debilitating, or it could just be nagging, pulling, annoying. But for me, the weirdest thing about it is sleeping. Like, and I sleep in a lot of different beds because I'm in hotels constantly. I'm in different, I have different homes, and I think that triggers it too. But just, it could just be minor. It could just be like a pulling, nagging feeling. It's really, really, and then sometimes like it could, like my dad went in an ambulance twice because it flared up so bad. Nico just talked about almost having to get in an ambulance, and it's weird. It's a weird thing that a lot of people deal with, and yeah, I don't think people realize how brutal it can be, painful wise. If especially on a musician, you could imagine touring as something like that. So yeah, it was interesting to talk about that. What's on your mind, Brian?
The last thing on that I was going to say was I've never been shot in my life, but I can't imagine a gunshot wound being as painful as a sciatic nerve. So that's my last word on that. The reason I was calling was I saw a great concert double bill this past Saturday night that I wanted to give you a heads up on. I saw Buck Cherry and Blue Oyster Cult, believe it or not, together in outdoors in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota on Saturday.
They're not touring together. Was that a bill just the local promoter put together?
I think it was just a one-off because B.O.C. is playing here again in a couple of weeks alone without Buck Cherry at another venue south of the Twin Cities. But this was 2-3 hours north of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I think it was just a one-night deal, but it was amazing. The weather was perfect. Buck Cherry obviously brought their ACD style, raunchy rock and roll, and then you had B.O.C. bringing all the classic hits and some of their deep cuts. Just a perfect double bill. I've loved B.O.C. since the 80s, really, and I got into seeing them quite a bit in the 90s, traveling around to see them, but I hadn't seen them in about 25 years or so. So it was great to catch up with those guys again in concert.
How are they, Brian, real quick, how are B.O.C. holding up? Because Eric Bloom has got to be 80, I think, at this point, or close to it, and Buck is up there too, the two original guys that are in the current band. How are they holding up? Vocally, playing-wise, are they hanging in there?
I thought they were outstanding. We were pretty close to the stage. We were like maybe the second or third row away from the stage, and they sounded great. They did do more Buck songs, as I have heard they've been doing to help cover for Eric's vocal issues. But, I mean, obviously, when you've got Buck Dharma in the band, you've got a ton of great hits that he sang on to begin with and a lot of other melodic tunes that weren't big hits. So they had no problem, covering for it from that aspect. And then, Eric still did his big songs like Godzilla and some of the other ones. So, I mean, I didn't think there were any issues with that. The only issue I had with the concert, and I wanted to ask you this question too since that night, was I wanted to buy merch there that night. I came prepared to spend money on a B.O.C. shirt and maybe a CD or a DVD, and they had absolutely no merchandise with them. Why do bands do that? They are leaving money on the table when
B.O.C. didn't, or Buck Cherry didn't, or neither?
Buck Cherry had all the merch. They had the entire merch booth, with their Crazy Bitch shirts and, autographed vinyl and all that stuff. Blue Oyster Cult did not have a single piece of merchandise, not a single T-shirt with them that night. And my mind was blown. I was like, seriously, guys, I want to spend money. I want to give you guys money, and you have nothing here. And I came prepared to buy stuff from you. Why do
Well-
bands do that? Why would they not bring a merch person with? I understand it's a fly date for them, and it's, they're doing 2 or 3 days here and there. But still, I mean, you print up some T-shirts cheap, you sell them to guys like me who are ready to spend the money, and you have maybe, a lackey or somebody, a roadie, sell your merch for a couple hours there at the booth.
Well, there's a couple reasons why it might not have happened. And thank you, Brian, for the report and the call. By the way, Eric Bloom is 80 years old. I just looked it up. Still out there touring, 80. But, as Brian mentioned, this happens from time to time. You go to a show and the person doesn't have merch for sale. Most artists live and die by merch, especially at that level, the lower level. I mean, they've got to sell merch because it's a huge additional chunk of money for them, and it's a huge swing for them. I've talked about that many times, especially at the club level. If you can sell some merch, you might make more money than you made in your guarantee to play there or close to it. And that's really money you rely on to help offset your costs of being on the road. Now, obviously, at the arena level, the bigger bands, it's just a huge extra chunk of money. But at the lower levels, it can make or break whether you can tour or not, or how you tour.